I'd like Jason to address us.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to me, I suppose, more than you. You're here regularly. That's the Rabbi in me. It's really nice to be back here. I think obviously our thoughts are with our brothers and sisters in Israel. At the moment, our learning should be in the Shama for those who were brutally murdered. And we're all in incredible pain. And I think it doesn't really change day by day as we understand what happened. For obviously a refuah for those who need, and for a return for the hostages, because that does give us incredible pain. Up to 200 people are taken from us. Up to two. Well, if Hamas say, I wouldn't believe that's what they say. Last time I came here, I actually spoke about the introduction of the Netziv. I remember the 19th century Rav Naftali, the last Rosh Yeshiva of Volozhin, and I brought to you the introduction he made to, I think, Sefer Devarim. And now, since we've just started Bereshit, I think it's worth looking at his introduction to Bereshit. There is an introduction to the whole Torah, which is absolutely fascinating because he calls the Torah, or he understands the Torah as Shira, as song or poetry. Not a book of prose that you can sort of, bedtime read, you can read through and get what you need, but a book where you need to, in a sense, mine out a meaning from it. You need to work hard and learn to derive and draw meaning from it. And he calls it Shira. But I'm more interested in what he says in the introduction, which you've got in front of you. I'm not sure I'm going to go through every word of this, but it's really quite radical and it's quite relevant in some ways for what's going on at the moment, in a way that you'll probably find quite surprising from the Netziv. So he was quite radical in a way, living in Russia, Russian Empire. His yeshiva was, in a sense, forced to close. They pushed on him secular education. He didn't want that, and therefore he closed the Volozhin yeshiva. And yet, for instance, if you would want to look at a source in Judaism for democracy, right, as an example, can we understand where there's a makor, a source for democracy in the Torah? The Netziv talks about it in Parshat Shoftim, right, when it comes to the Melech. And it's quite interesting, the difference between, maybe because he was living under empire, he saw the yoke of empire, what it would do to a people, and saw that. So here, if you look at the very first line, we've got the bold there, Zeh HaSefer Nikra Sefer Bereshit. We all know it's Sefer Bereshit. What the Netziv does in his introductions is he looks at different names for each of the Sfarim. You thought it was called, right, but actually, Chazal know it as this. So you think it's called Sefer Bereshit. But there's another name for it, which is Sefer HaYashar. Right? What is Yashar? Well, straight, isn't it? Yashar, right? Other than being bent and round the corner. It sometimes can mean just or fair, right? He says that Sefer Bereshit is known, right? Nikra Befi Nevi'im. It's called Sefer HaYashar. And he quotes some psukim in Yoshua, in, where else is he got? Shmuel, right? He quotes two psukim. And if you look at the fourth line, Rabbi Yochanan explains this as Sefer Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. And that's the next point he makes. That not only is it Sefer Yashar, but the Yesharim, the ultimate people who were Yashar, find what that means, Yashar, were Abraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov. And how do we know that? Well, it's a Gemara, but it's on a verse said by Bilam. Right, Bilam, when he makes one of his statements or prophecies or whatever we call it, right, he says, "Kamot nafshi mot yisharim." They might be the death of the Yesharim. And then Siv makes this commentary that couldn't say he would be tzaddik. I want to be the death of the Sadikim because he was a non-Jewish prophet, says the Netziv, and that wasn't for him or a chassid. But Yashar, He could be. And so he says, I want to die like the Avot and not Yesharim. So the Yesharim, at least, are understood to be the Yesharim. There's another pasuk that brings this word Yashar, and I've put it in my notes here. In Ha'azinu, Hatzur Tamim Paulo, the rock, his works are perfect. Tichol Derachav Mishpat. Eil Emunah ve'ein Avel, right? A God of belief, and there's no bad and evil in him, corruption in him. Sadik ve'yashar. He is righteous and he is yashar. And what the Midrash does is takes that pasuk and takes the couplets of words and splits them between the destruction of the first temple and the second. El Emunah, for instance, right, is about first temple. He says was about belief. We were worshipping Avodah Zarah. We lost our belief. In Avel, we became corrupt in the second temple, and that's why we lost it. Sadik, we lost righteousness, and that's why the first temple was destroyed. Yashar, we lost, and that's why the second temple was destroyed. Now, what is that? What is that? So let's have a look what it is. So look at 3, 6, 8, 9 lines down. 9 lines down, where the word who is followed by a full stop. Do that, where the word who is followed by a full stop there. The Shevach Yashar, who ne'emar, the praise of being Yashar, is said, Latzik din HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to justify the judgment of God, B'churban Beit Sheni, in the destruction of the second temple. Shahaya dor ikesh uftaltol. Right, they were a corrupt generation. Upeirashnu, and he says, we explain here. She'ayut Sadikim, the Chasidim, the Amalei Torah. In Beit Sheni, they were from a Yid. They were from. They were the Levush, right? Properly. They were Sadikim. They were pious Jews. They were Amalei Torah. They learned Torah. They were proper, studied B'nai Torah. Ach lo hayu yesharim b'halichot olamam. They weren't straight in the ways of the world. It's still not clear. They weren't good at business, right? They were unethical. Well, he goes on. This is unbelievable Natsir, which I have always been inspired by. Al Kain, but therefore, mipnei sinam shebelibam zeh et zeh, because of hatred, baseless hatred in their hearts for each other. Chashdu et mi shera'u sheno heg shelo kedatam b'yirat Hashem. They suspected each other when they saw someone behaving not like them in fearing of God. It's quite interesting. It's not just you're different. They saw someone else as a threat. They suspected them when they behaved differently in their fear of Hashem. Shehud Saduki v'Apikoros, that they're a Sadducee or an Apikoros. How many times I remember, it's very easy for people. I know that in the Orthodox world, we know that. Very easy for one to say, oh, they're Apikoros. As soon as they do 8, you're a heretic. You're an Apikoros. And here, this was clearly going on a lot. It was causing great split. The Yashar is something here understood by the Netziv about the relationship between people and the importance to give people a chance, not to over suspect them. And it goes on, Uba al yedei zeh l'shvichat damim, l'idei shvichat damim. This led to murder, but derech haflaga, in a great way. Ulechol haraot sheba'olam, and all bad things in the world. Ad shecharav habayit. Interesting, isn't it? The Gemara says that sinat chinam of the second temple was as equal as the 3 great sins that brought the first. Maybe part of it is it led to some of them. The causing the sinat chinam caused by a split between people, an inability to tolerate the other, right, can cause eventually, very possibly, not always, to murder. So a desire that I don't want the other in the world. And actually, interesting enough, thinking about it, it connects us to the story of Cain and Hevel. Because Cain and Hevel is about Cain and we're told about in the world, and they are brothers, where Cain cannot live. He's going to have a portion of the world that argues over this portion, right? It's one approach, and he cannot live with him in the world. They're going to be different. They're going to have different roles. They're going to take different parts of the world. Yeah, he can't live with him. As they say in some of the like align him. The better end. So this is the Sefer Hayashar, right? The book of the just. And I want you to see how he talks about Abraham. Let me see if I can get it. Because that's really, really important. Here we are. Oh, Yashahu, right. So we'll carry on. If you go to the next line, it says Shakadosh Baruch Hu Yashahu. Right, God is just. The Eino Sovel Sadikim Ka'elu. He does not, he only tolerates. So the reason we're told that God is Yashar in Azinu, says the Tziv, is that he won't tolerate people who are not Yashar. He will see that they're Sadik. He will see that they're Chassid, that they learn Torah, that they're religious from people, as we say that word that I don't really like too much, right? But he won't sovel tzadikim ka'elu ela be'ofen unless in the manner sholchim b'derech hayashar, that they go in the ways of straightness, gam be'lichot olam, in the ways of the world, in their relationship in the world, below ba'akmimut, not in a bent manner, in an indirect manner. Afal gavshu l'shem shamayim, even though this might be considered for the sake of heaven, what I'm doing. This was the praise. Why are the Avot Yisharim? Why are they called just or straight or whatever this word is? They weren't just righteous and pious and lovers of God. Od hayu Yisharim. Right? They were also Yisharim. And this is really interesting. Because what was their Yash? We talked about Beit Sheni, where people in their relationships internally with other, Jew to Jew, right, suspected the other, created differences between each other. We just think about the last number of months in Israel, right? How split the people is, how people are suspecting each other. Incredible in some ways, and we hope that continues, that it suddenly obviously turns because of the terrible, terrible crisis we're in. People just drop their cudgels of difference and come together knowing the threat from the outside. But what about the Avot? They were very early. They were before Am Yehudi, Am Yisrael really had existence. Where was their Yashar? Sheitnagu im umat olam, that they, in a sense, existed with it. Hitnagu im means they behaved with, they lived with the non-Jewish people. Afilu ovdei elilim mechuarim, even with ugly, right? That's the term, isn't it? Ugly idol worship. Even people that are not good, that we worry about, we don't want to be, they work with them. Mikol makom hayu imam be'ava. They were with them with love. V'chashu letovatam, and wanted their good end. But asher, this is a fascinating term, but asher ki habriya, because it's the fulfillment of creation. It reminds me a bit of a lot of the discussion between, if we're all, or unless I'm the one doing them. Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Yonah, right, should I not take pity in all these people? I'm the creator. So he's trying, there's a difference here between God, the creator, who it seems can take pity and want clearly the better creation. He's created people, humanity, who will want a good end for it. And maybe Am Yisrael's role is to bring that end. Right? If you look at her, with the Am Sula, right? With the chosen people, in Devarim, Abba Harashem, God chose you, but we're a Sgula, we're a treasure. And the Hirsch talks about a treasure box where you put treasures to keep them. and how God has put us in the box. And in the future, our role is to bring everyone else into the box. So it's not meant to be forever that we're separate. We're meant to bring others, others around. Right? So there's something about God saying, no, I want you, the Jewish people, to want its better end. Kiyum habriya. And who's the best example of this? We see Kama hishtateach Avraham Avinu litpalel al stom. This is unbelievable. How much did he bow down to daven for stom? Even though he hated them, Ve'ed Malkam, and their king, Tachlit Sina, a clear, complete hatred of Orishatam because of the evil, right? Mikol Makam, Chafetz B'Kiyumam. Isn't that he's davening because he wants them to eventually to live and to be good. It actually reminds me, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head now, the Gemara on Baruch Enough. We say that on Rosh Chodesh. We just said the last 2 days, right? And at the end, what does it say at the end? Time od einam. The sinners should cease from the land, and there will be no more sinners. And the Gemara, I think it's a Gemara with Bruria and Rabbi Meir, where there are some birionim, there's some hooligans, bad, right? Mechuarim, ugly, whoever they are, in the Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Meir wants them to die. He prays for them to die. And Rabbi Meir's wife Bruria intervenes, and says, don't pray for them to die, pray for them to stop doing bad. And according to the Gemara, he did that, and they stopped doing bad. And her makor, her source, was Yitamu Chatay Minas. Doesn't mean the sinners should cease, because how can it say the sinners? If the sinners cease, clearly there won't be any more sinners. Doesn't make sense. Yitamu Chatay Mushar, obviously. Yitamu Chatayim, meaning if the sins cease from the land, then there will be no more sinners by default. Pretty idealistic stuff. Maybe Rabbi was a lot more living in our generation, seeing what's going on in the world, it was a bit more realistic, right? But hey, I've never heard anyone call Bruria leading heart liberal. She was a very, very, very well thought of person, and she was the wife of Rabbi Meir. She had a lot of good to say. And she's saying, right, we shouldn't give up on people. Now, by the way, this is not me talking about like Hamas, right, or terrorists, because I suppose there's also something that Avraham maybe didn't have, which is that we are being, in a sense, slaughtered by our people. We are in defense of ourselves. So when we hear constantly on BBC how we're retaliating, I don't think we're retaliating. I mean, there is an element of it, but we're defending. We are having to retain our deterrence. But I suppose when we look at the wider world and the wider Palestinian world or Arab world, right? Certainly Arab world, I suppose. Does the Netziv apply to that? That we would want a world where we do live together. There's no world where just the Jews live. We live in a world with others, both in our society and outside our society. And I think it's really interesting for us that we daven on Shacharit of Shabbat, don't we? Right. B'fi yishtarim v'divrei tzadikim titkadash u'vilshon chasidim titromam u'v'kerev kedoshim titkadash. We go from Yashar, right? Yitzchak, isn't it? Right? I think there are second Sephardi, I think, if I remember. Yashar Tzadik Chasid Kadosh. And according to that, and the Nitziv's understanding of Sefer Bereshit being Sefer Yashar, and Yashar being the Avot, and Yashar being a base. You can't be righteous, right? Or you can't be accepted as righteous. In other words, doing the right thing. And pious, which probably means going beyond the right thing and doing even more than the right thing. And holy, which is very hard. You can't be accepted unless you're Yashar. And the Netziv, every time Yashar comes up, explains Yashar as being straight with other people, me connecting with the other and wanting the good of the other, rather than me, in a sense, looking at the other as an object that doesn't matter. And so if you don't have your Yashar, the Yasharim, then in some ways the other levels, Sadik, Chassid, Kadosh, don't work in God's mind. That's why, I suppose to end, Bilam maybe couldn't get to that level of tzidkut and chassidut, but he could, we're told by the Nesiv, at least ask for yashar, at least want to be a yashar, because that is surely what the Avot have done. So I hope that gives you a window in to the world of the Netziv and his introduction. Please.
Rabbi Mason,
What have we got?
if you're very interested in the Netziv, a book being published with letters from my great uncle to the Netziv.
Alan, wait a second. Someone's asking a question in the house here.
We've got a question in the room first.
Okay, I didn't hear.
Somebody once asked, are people necessarily mentioned? Not good. I think the question they're not good. No, well, exactly. But I think also we're in the second Holocaust at the moment. I think that the first Holocaust had been accepting other people. We're all in. The Jews lined up going to the Nazis school was short.
Yeah. I think the question that how do we
can't hear, Stephen can't hear.
Often we're threatened. I mean, there's a psychology. You're often threatened by the other. Right? So that could be again between religious groups as well. It could be between Haredi groups, between Dati Le'umiyut and Harediyut, etc. Because how do we live together? And this obviously is extended to the Jew within the world.
Can someone just say from Israel? Alan Goldman, where are you? What do you? Yeah.
There has been a book published. It's a compilation of letters to the Netziv from my great uncle and the great grandfather of my son-in-law, from Rabbi Newman's father.
Oh, right.
Yes, it's been published by Eli Friedwald.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll say goodbye to those of you on Zoom. Those of you in Israel, keep safe, and we'll be back again next week. We'll stop recording now, and I'm going to do Baruch Corona now. Thank you.